Hello, everybody, and welcome to the O.V.G.C podcast. This is episode 22, canonically, but this is going to be our first game series episode. We're going to be talking about the Shin Megami Tensei universe. This is our part one, for sure, of at least two of games in the SMT universe. I am not the expert at it, but joining me is the one above me in the square is SilentOwl, or Sean. Welcome back to the show.
Oh,
It's good to have you back since we last talked about the Game Awards a couple months ago. So it's good to see you and have you back on the show for something that is somewhere in your main wheelhouse here. So,
yep, I'm a big Meggy 10 fan. I've been a fan since 1995, I think, is when I got Eternal Punishment as my first one of my first RPGs I bought for my PlayStation, and it was such a strange, weird, modern world with like weird elements to it that I just got hooked, and I had to pick up everything that's Meggy 10.
I wish I had gotten in as early as you did. I started with Persona 3, but I dropped it because I didn't understand it at the time when I played it, and I didn't get back into the SMT series until Persona 5, where I played through all of that a lot, and then I was like, okay, I got to try out all these other games, and then my first real SMT game was SMT 4 for the Nintendo DS. So, and I've
Actually,
tried a few others in between.
yeah. To answer Lancer Striker, I did not know that I was supposed to be confused playing Eternal Punishment, though learning about the other games in the series, now I know why certain things were confusing, but it actually worked as a standalone game for me.
Yeah, so that's our intro to that, and we're glad you guys could all join us. We're definitely going to try and read the chat a little bit in between while we're here so we can answer field questions. Mostly, we're going to talk about the games in a canonical order as best we can. Nothing in SMT is particularly linked to every game. There are some exceptions that are direct sequels, but for the most part, almost all of the games are kind of their own story being told. That isn't to say that they don't try to make cross references to other SMT games in between that. At the same time, somewhat insinuating there's alternate universes, but that's neither here nor there. So, what do you got to say about the SMT series as an intro?
Technically, every single game takes place in the same universe because it's all timey-wimey Amala network.
Okay.
Everything's connected by the Amala network, so everything happens.
All right. My impression was
Yeah.
that it was different things attached to the Amala network. So,
Everything's attached to the Amala network. Everything happens. It's all Doctor Who-ish.
yes. Um, in the background, I'm just going to play some video for the original Shin Megami Tensei. So if you guys kind of want to just you don't have to really follow along with it. It's just going to be kind of like a video of what the old games were kind of like. You can kind of see the major elements that made Shin Megami Tensei the series it is kind of really culminates with Shin Megami Tensei and not Digital Devil story beforehand. Um, so
Well, let's get to that real quick by starting where did this all come from? What is this game series? Well, this game series basically started as an adaptation of some guy's fan fiction after he played Wizardry. A young Aya Nishitama, Japanese, soon to be a Japanese writer, was playing a Western RPG. He was playing, he was either playing Wizardry or Ultima, one of those old Western RPGs, and he's like, "This is fascinating. This is fantastic. I'm going to write my own version of Ultima, and it's going to be set in Tokyo, and it's going to have demons and angels and stuff. What if that world was transported to our modern world?" And so he wrote a little fan fiction. It's called Digital Devil Story, and he wrote about a kid who's he's a nerd. He's picked on, probably writing about himself, and he creates a awesome computer program that lets him talk to demons, and somehow that lets demons come into the real world. And now we have magic and demons and a fight on top of Tokyo Tower to save the world. And also, it so happens that the kid and the girl that doesn't really talk to him much are the reincarnation of Izunagi, and she's a reincarnation of a goddess, and they're
Izanami.
meant to be together. Izunami, yes. And this little fan fiction was wrote, and it got sold as a light novel, and it was kind of popular. And Namco was like, "Hey, can we make a game based off this light novel?" Sure. And they make the game, and they call it Megami Tensei, which roughly translates to reincarnation of the goddess, because it's based off that idea that in this story that the girl protagonist, she is a reincarnation of a goddess. And so they make this game. There's two different versions of this game that was made. One was a sort of top-down gauntlet type game where you're just moving a character. I mean, this is old Nintendo, and you're just moving a character and shooting something. I don't know, axes, energy beams, whatever. But what was interesting, there was another version made of this game as a role-playing game, very much in the style of Ultima and Wizardry, where you'd create a party and you'd go through a 3D dungeon, and you would, dungeon crawl. As you know, Wizardry and Ultima are based off D&D. This was very like a Japanese take on a D&D.
So
Have you?
go on.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. So we have first the Digital Devil Megami Tensei game, Digital Devil Story, and then
Yes.
you said there was another one that branched
Yes.
that they made in tandem with that, and that was what?
That was just called Megami Tensei.
Okay.
So there's two different Megami Tenseis released on
Okay.
the original Nintendo, never in the US. And one of them was a top-down sort of gauntlet style, and the other one was an RPG, both based off this light novel, an adaptation of this light novel.
And they were both called Megami Tensei.
They were both called Megami Tensei.
Okay. Not confusing whatsoever for the time, I'm sure.
Later, an OVA or a movie and then an OVA came out were an adaptation of this light novel. You can find this movie if you look up Tokyo Revelation. That's the name of it's either the name of the movie or the OVA series that's based off this light novel. It was put out in the US by Manga Entertainment. It was like around that time when like early 90s you could find it on the shelf at a Blockbuster, right next to Ghost in the Shell and Akira.
Yeah, and hopefully not any of the black label stuff
Mm-hmm.
out there.
It
I'm
it was
surprised that it had an English translation.
they didn't know that when they called it Tokyo Revelation. I don't think they really catered to the fact that this is that there's a video game behind this, because and I don't think Nintendo would ever release it in the U.S. A game about demons and angels. Oh, Steve Blum's in it. Awesome.
So what comes after these two games? So did the top-down game get a sequel, or did it just stay as a one-off?
It just stayed as a one-off. And then there was a second Megami Tensei game that was still following as like some type of sequel to the light novel. Like, let's do a story where now the hero goes to hell and fights demons down there. So it wasn't much of an upgrade from the first Megami Tensei, but it was just the Atlas experimenting with can we do more? And so they did sort of like an expansion kind of, let's do a hell version. Let's go down to hell and have a story down there.
And then after that was Shin Megami Tensei, correct?
So Shin Megami Tensei,
Hold
Shin
on, before you get too
is
far into it, I just want to
okay.
know: is Shin Megami Tensei the one that comes after this? Then, because I don't
Yes.
believe there's a Digital Devil Story 3, right? It
No.
ended at that point. Okay, so that was in itself its own part of the series by itself. Those two games, where the sequel was a sequel specifically to the game and not the novel, because the first game was based off the novel, based on it, but it was still about the novel, right? It was a recreation of the novel.
Yes, it
Then the
was.
the novel then got two more sequels, two more direct sequels for the same character, and then it had three more sequels after that. So there's six novels, I believe. I'm not. No, there's nine total.
There's 9 novels. Yep. The
And none of those get recreated at all throughout the whole
no.
series. And
The what? Yep.
sorry, hold on, I'm almost done.
Go ahead.
And so what we have is the novel with its own timeline of events, then the game based on the novel with a different timeline, like a second timeline, and then they base Shin Megami Tensei on it, right? And it became its own series afterwards. Like they were no longer using the Megami Tensei novel as a template for anything. So they were developing their own stuff, correct?
Yes. So Shin Megami Tensei is the first game that they made that is not attached to. It's not an adaptation of a light novel. They took the ideas of the light novel and they started over. So Shin is typically in Shin means new. In like in Japanese titles, if you see Shin in front of something, it's new, as in like a new version or a remake of something. Like if you went to see the movie Shin Godzilla, that's a new version of Godzilla.
Mm. So the Shin
So,
3DS, you know.
yeah, yes. So Shin Megami Tensei roughly translates means new reincarnation of the goddess. And Shin Megami Tensei on the Super Nintendo is actually a retelling of the Digital Devil story, but it goes the direction they need it to go to have a whole franchise. Shin Megami Tensei is very approachable if you want to play it. It has been released on mobile occasionally, where you can play it on your phone. It has been on the Virtual Console. I don't know if it's available now, but I've seen it on the Virtual Console for the 3DS.
Mm.
And there is a fan translated version of the original Super Nintendo version of that on the internet. Will not disclose how to do that, but you know, you know.
So is the 3DS Virtual Console version, which you can't get anymore because the 3DS is online stuff, was that an official English translation?
It was, and it was the PlayStation version of that we also didn't get, but they made a Virtual Console version of it.
Now I know they remade Shin Megami Tensei 2 on the PS1. They also remade Shin Megami Tensei on the PS1 as
Yes.
well.
So that's going a little further into how they keep remaking things, but
Uh huh.
Atlas put out Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 sort of remasters on the PlayStation, and they called them the New Testament versions.
Oh, okay, okay. And is that all right? I don't want to jump too far into anything like that, but like
But we
those
have to,
don't
yeah,
have anything that they never use that slogan for anything else, right? I
the New
believe.
Testament.
Right. Is that correct?
Um, I don't believe so.
Okay. Because I know there's the last Bible series that they do as
Yes,
well.
that's the Game Boy series.
Yeah. But let's
But
jump back
Shin
to
Megami,
Shin Megami Tensei.
did you take an opportunity to play Shin Megami Tensei or watch any gameplay?
I just watched gameplay of it, which is what we're watching right now. So
Are we?
this is Shin
Oh,
Megami Tensei for the Super
oh,
Nintendo. Well, the Super Famicom.
oh, yes. There we go. I was even watching the stream the whole time. Okay, there we go.
um, I will
So, Shin,
before we jump into Shin, because this is when the series starts to get super in depth. Digital Devil's story is not like a super duper deep game. You have like what, 5 stages to go through in it, I believe, and it's all first person dungeon crawling games where you recruit demons through your comp, like which becomes like the common way to interact with the demons and stuff in the game. Um, Later on, like that's a persistent game mechanic that goes for all the Shin Megami Tensei games and is in Persona, but starting with Persona 4, right? No, you get those in Persona 3. Sorry.
Well, I think we're going ahead too much, and I think we need to sit down and talk about what makes this Shin Megami Tensei and everything after it a Shin Megami Tensei game.
Okay, I
And
was
since
thinking
this,
about touching on the persistent mechanics that came from the first game originally,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
that's I'm saying the same
okay,
thing
okay,
as
I'll
yeah.
let you continue then. Go for it.
So, um, since we kind of briefly went over Megami Tensei because we really don't have access to play those games, they never came out in English. This is our first English game that we can play either through the virtual console or other means. So this is the our introduction to Shin Megami Tensei. This game is set in a modern time. It could be today, and what happens is you as a character you make, you have a dream about the end of the world happening. And in your dream, you meet two individuals who have two different viewpoints of the world. One person wants to save the world. They will be referred to as law. And a second person that you meet in your dream, they think the world is doomed and that if you don't have power, then you die. And that person we would refer to as chaos. And in the opening scene of this game, you also get an email from a mysterious person who gives you a program, a devil summoning program. This person will later reveal to be Stephen Hawking's. Stephen Hawking is the inventor of devil summoning programs in all the games.
He does make regular.
So shout out to Steve Hawkins.
And he does make regular casual appearances in other SMT games too. For some reason, Stephen Hawking is. I know he's in SMT 2, and I think he's in SMT 4, if I recall.
He's in 4. He actually gets out of his wheelchair in 4. He's in Strange Journey.
Okay, yeah. And even Michael Jackson shows up in one of the games.
Yes, he does. Shin Megami Tensei, the gameplay is very much kind of a dungeon crawler, and you get to kind of visit modern locations while the world's about to end because of a demon incursion. Demons start showing up in the world, and you're able to combat them because you have a devil summoning program. The devil summoning program also kind of acts kind of like how Star Trek has the comm badges. A devil summoning program lets you communicate with devils or demons. And so you'll talk to demons and you will ask, hey, you want to help me out? Your form a contract, and they join your team. You can collect them all like early. It's like Pokemon, but it happened before Pokemon. The game treats demons as they are characters, but they also are tools used by other characters. And the game deals with religious ideas, like either you are someone who is lawful, you believe in order, so you would side with the angels, with God, or Yahweh, as he's called in this game, or you would side with the chaos, where might makes right, where you need to establish power over others to control the world, and that is more sided with demons. It does have a alignment system, similar to D&D, where are you someone who's chaotic or lawful?
And then there is no neutrality and stuff in Shin Megami Tensei, the first one, right?
There is not necessarily a neutral path. You can try to be neutral. And later games, they will offer a neutral path and sometimes offer more than three paths in the game. This first one has you sort of visit the two different thoughts as you visit the leaders of law and leader of chaos, and kind of decide in the end what you think, which side that you'll support.
Hey, there's Stephen
There's
Hawking.
There's Steve. Yeah, that's Stephen Hawking right there.
Just so it's understood how the law and chaos ending stuff happens, it is always the most extreme version of each of those things. So there is no real good ending in Shin Megami Tensei. It's just the outcome you choose, and it's not like a neutral ending isn't really necessarily a good ending either. And each game kind of has like an ending that's kind of like the best version, like part, like best way to play through the game, but like there isn't really like a like an ending that you as a player can pick and say I beat the game and I got the good ending. There just isn't that at all.
It's not a world of good and evil. It's a world of different morals. It's a world that you're deciding when the world ends, what do the survivors pick? And in this war between heaven and hell, where the humans are fodder to both of them, what side do the humans pick? Do they side with the demons or do they side with the angels? And neither one of those sides are good for humans. It's not good for us. I mean, in later games, there's a neutral path where you try to make your own path for humankind. But most of the time, humans are just, unfortunately, casualties of this war between angels and demons.
Um, and so then through the end of the first Shin Megami Tensei game, though, we do kind of have what they'd consider the canonical ending, which is the law ending, which takes you to the second game as a direct sequel, right?
Yes, so the law ending is supporting the angels and trying to get their protection for humans. And so we proceed into Shin Megami Tensei 2, where it's a direct sequel that assumes that the angels, you sided with them and they protected humans by helping protect them while they built underground bunkers and establish a computer system that can run things and take care of the humans.
Okay. And just so everybody's clear, we're not gonna like sit and just like talk about the stories of these games because doing so is kind of like would just kind of be redundant. So you should play them. But we do want to talk about like the world building of the games, what each game like offers you here, a little bit wise. And I do want to eventually go back when we cover this stuff. I want to go back and talk about the gameplay mechanics, the things that pass on, what makes an SMT game an SMT game, and then kind of what other versions, what other spin-off series have kind of borrowed from SMT as a mainline portion of this of the whole franchise, essentially. So,
But that's a good thing to say because gameplay wise, um, while like you may have played Persona, been used to how the combat system gives you rewards for hitting weaknesses, that's not happening yet. The original Shin Megami Tensei, humans are weak. Humans can't cast magic. Your character, your human character, cannot use magic. It's not a press turn system. There's no additional bonus for hitting a weakness besides just doing a little more damage. Or sometimes that's the only way to do damage to a demon is to hit their weakness. You must recruit demons because only the demons can cast magic. Only the demons have those abilities. You can level your character up, but you will never be able to cast magic. You will permanently be a physical build. The only way to help your main character is to just equip a good sword, a good gun.
yes, and just like other like those of you who've played Persona, you can't keep the same demons the whole game most of the time. You have to fuse if you want to get good, like because the demons really don't level up and get stronger. They basically stay the same, in these older ones, and in order to get stronger, you just have to find and fuse more demons. Uh, and even then, you could not be strong enough to take on some challenges too. Um, if we can touch on the demons really quick, the one thing I really like about what SMT does that Persona doesn't, like the offshoot games don't do, where they focus on storylines and main characters. The SMT games actually focus on the demons themselves, making the demons and how they react and what the things they do in the world the actual plot points of Shin Megami Tensei. You know, you have let's use Cerberus for this one really quick because he shows up in a lot of the early SMT games because in Digital Devil Story, Cerberus was the main character's like partner that helped him fight Loki, who was the bad guy in Digital Devil Story. That's the book, the light novel, because I don't think that's correct
Yes.
in the game.
And
But
in the game, actually, your dog, which canonically's name is Pavo, he turns into Cerberus to protect you. You can fuse your dog into Cerberus.
and Cerberus is like the best like guy you can get for a long time. Like in the beginning, like you want to you want to ride the wave of having Cerberus for quite a while. He's that good in the first few games. I believe Cerberus shows up only in like the first three, right? If you count Digital Devil Story as kind of like a good like main character to have with you, because he is essentially a main character on his own.
Cerberus, in the beginning of Shin Megami Tensei games, Cerberus was pretty much like their Pikachu. He was the character that showed up in a lot of games. Um, Atlas has changed their mascot demon a few times, but in the early games, it was Cerberus.
Yeah, and so like touching on really quick before we move on, is touching on that with other demons, like like I don't want to reach for Lucifer really quick, but like he like let's say oh, what's another one? Like let's
Hee
say
ho.
yeah, I was gonna say like Jack Frost or something like might be like a demon that's like you got to go to the dungeon to take him out because he's been in the game freezing like an entire building, and in order to get through it, you got to kill him or something. They utilize the demons for what they are as story beats in the games, which is what makes them really interesting and unique to fight. You know,
Like
down the line.
Digimon.
Yeah, because there's a point I believe in SMT4 where there's like earthquakes going on, and it's part of the story that there's a demon that's causing the earthquakes, and you got to go kill him to get it to stop. You know, and that's something that the other SMT games use. All the SMT games kind of utilize as a really cool thing that like you can, unlike let's say Pokemon, where the Pokemon characters, the Pokemon you fight have no real bearing on the world that you're running around in, whereas SMTs, the monsters and things that you fight are all affecting the world, and you're going around finding them and fighting them, but you can still acquire them as you play. So it's kind of neat because I don't see a lot of the gotcha games, like catch 'em all games, I guess. I'm not sure what you'd call it. Do a lot of stuff like that where it utilizes one of the game's own enemy types as all being something that you can not just acquire and play with, but also being the driving force of the plot of certain situations in the game, and not even being like the permanent main plot. Like they're not all the final villain of something. They may just be like a quest you got to go do in the meantime. That's part of the main story, just to be able to continue the main story or something like that. So that's what I wanted to touch on with that.
Fun production note here. We're seeing footage of them in the Echo Building, which is a big dungeon in Shin Megami Tensei, the first game. That Echo Building is based off a real building. When the developers were working on this game, they would near a train station, they took a train to get to work. There was a building that had been built, and no one was in it. It wasn't being rented at the time. So they thought to themselves, what would this empty building like that no one's renting? What would that be like? Like if there was a secret society in that large building, that large office space that no one's using. and that became the Echo Building dungeon in the first Shin Megami Tensei.
Hey, quiet. Um, so with stuff like that, they do a lot of borrowing from real life architecture because the whole game is based in Tokyo, right? Essentially, or around
It,
Japan at least
yes,
specifically.
the first game's in Tokyo, but the sequel, Shin Megami Tensei 2, was originally planned to be set in Israel. But there was some pushback from some people in Atlas. No, you can't do that. So they had to set the sequel again in Tokyo, but just 50 years in the future, when 50 years after the demon incursion, and humanity's living in bunkers, and we're just trying to survive basically a wasteland because there's just been demons out on the surface for 50 years.
And is so in SMT two, you do end up fighting. You do end up having to confront God essentially. They called him Yahweh, but they used like four
Yes.
letters for it, so that way they weren't being rude.
Yahweh is that is because they originally wanted to set the game in Israel. They had a story about Israel's God being a false god. This just a story, and so they always planned on
Down and go away.
God being the main boss of the second game. Um, I like how Shin Megami Tensei series likes to treat religion like it's a Harry Potter book, and it's just throw stuff in. It's fantasy. Um, it's it don't take it serious.
Yeah, I like how they kind of utilize everything the world has to offer in terms of like deities and supernatural beings and things that they've that humanity has essentially come up with in the end. Idealistic things that they essentially just tackle all those things, all those ideas and thoughts. Um, and it's very unique to the SMT series because there isn't really anything else that does that at
There
all.
is also when you talk about demons are existing in our modern world. They just disguise themselves as humans. In Shin Megami Tensei, the first game that we're watching, the American military launches nukes at Japan to stop the demon incursion, and they are launched by General Thorman. His name is Thorman, and surprise, he's actually Thor.
Makes sense. They utilize that a few times too, because even in the second game, Lucifer goes by like Lucan Far or something like that. I don't know. They give him a weird name. Just to that's his human disguise. And I believe which which game was it that the angel Gabriel actually was the president of the United States? Was it the first one?
That might be the first
I think
game.
it was the first game. So yeah, so they do utilize a lot of stuff like that, and just not
They,
take it so seriously, but kind of realize it in what how people would treat it in this way. Like they really go out of their way to think about it.
they
um,
well, they trade it like I think of how we have some movie franchises out there like Underworld, where there's these mythical creatures like vampires and werewolves fighting, but we don't know that they're fighting because normal people aren't aware of this other of these conflicts going on. And in the Shin Megami Tensei universe, there are conflicts going on between demons and angels happening in our streets, and we just don't see it. They're good at hiding it, whether they're disguising themselves as other humans or they're manipulating humans for their gains.
and so then how does Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 kind of lead into Shin Megami Tensei 3 exactly? If and now kind of harkening back at this point,
It
Shin Megami Tensei 3 is not directly connected to 2.
No, but before we get to Shin Megami Tensei 3, we have one more title that came out on the Super Nintendo that a lot of people may know as the prototype Persona. we have Shin Megami Tensei If that came out on the Super Nintendo, and it is a what if story, hence the title If.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is, what if the demon apocalypse happened, but you were locked in school and you couldn't leave?
And so it's about the demon apocalypse happening at the day of. So it's like not a post-apocalyptic world. It's the attack on Earth, essentially, right?
Current apocalypse?
I mean, it's the beginning of the war.
So it would technically take place at the same time that Shin Megami Tensei is taking place. It just follows a group of students who can't leave their school while there's demons outside.
Now, does the whole game take place in a school? The
Yes,
whole
it
game?
does.
Okay, all right.
Well, school and dreams.
Okay.
So it takes place in a school, and there is a mad science teacher who knew that the apocalypse was going to happen. So he put up magical wards to keep the school safe from the demons coming in. And then he starts experimenting on himself and the students. And you and which students you pick to help fight him. And you fight him by entering his dreams. And his dreams are based off the different levels of hell, like sloth, like envy. Um, and these levels of hell are his thoughts about humanity and mainly what he thinks about the other students.
And
Yes, he dream. That's correct, Grendel. He dreams of Dante.
yep. Dante does show up in the SMT series as well. The but if though Shin Megami Tensei if though has no bearing on any of the Persona games that come after it, and it doesn't have any bearing on any other game in the franchise. It's its own thing by itself, right?
Shin Megami Tensei If uh, can take place during Shin Megami Tensei. And one of the classmates from that school will grow up and be in Persona 2 as a side character, but she does grow up to have a detective agency and helps you out in Persona 2. So there is some crossover there, and whether or not that makes If happen in the Persona universe, it could. But If also happens in the SMT universe, so don't know.
It happens in both universes.
It's the jam that connects the two bread.
Is even though it's supposed to be a what if story, does that indicate though then that Shin Megami Tensei 2 doesn't happen in the other games then? And that they're destined to have the future of Shin Megami Tensei after all?
It's a difficult question.
Okay.
If Shin Megami Tensei is the first event where the apocalypse happens, demon incursion,
Yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei 2 is the answer to what happens 50 years later,
Right.
and apparently the angels are supposed to help us, but they're not.
No.
And then Shin Megami Tensei If is the apocalypse happened, but we're stuck in school, and our science teacher really hates us.
So, but that occurs, yeah, basically at the beginning of everything, you know. So, but there's no. So after this, there isn't any other side stories we need to talk about before Shin Megami Tensei 3, because there's a lot that occurs between the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation 2.
There is. So we're going to enter the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation era. And next up would be the Sega Saturn. And we have a new game called Devil Summoner. If you got that clip, they made a TV commercial for this game. And it's a live action commercial for a game called Devil Summoner.
What is Devil Summoner exactly?
Devil Summoner is it's a it's like a detective noir type game where you play your character is whoever you want to be. You get to name your character. You get to pick if you're male or female. You get to pick what you do. Are you like a salary man? Are you a teacher? And then you make all those choices. And in the beginning of the game, you die. So it doesn't matter what you pick. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter what your job was. You die. You die because there's a detective running around with a gun-shaped computer. It's a revolver with a keyboard on it, basically, and he accidentally shoots you while chasing a demon, and you die. To keep you alive, though, that detective is like, hey, I can keep you alive. I'm just going to punch you inside my body, and I'll go to sleep, and you'll have a body, and you can like figure out like what's going on. And so you get to inhabit a devil summoner who's a detective who has a gun with a keyboard on it. And that is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner.
No, there's a direct sequel to Devil Summoner, right? So there's Devil
There
Summoner
is.
2.
There's Devil Summoner 2, Electric Boogaloo. I'm sorry, Soul Hackers.
Well, isn't the first Devil Summoner? I don't think he gave you his. If is it Kazui? Is it Kizunoha or something? Is the name of the guy's body you inhabit in Devil
That's
Summoner?
correct.
Okay.
Detective, yes, which is a
So
very important name to know for later.
storyline wise, I will clear this up really quick because he does not let you get in his body. He dies
Oh,
shortly after, and then another entity puts you in his body.
oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Is what
I
happens.
forgot about Kinook, that fox spirit that's part of the Devil Summoner
Yeah.
series, because one thing they do with when they do a sub series, they switch kind of like what the mythology they're going to follow is like. So like mainline SMT is judo Christianity, so we're following angels and demons fighting as you would read in like your sort of like in the Bible and such. So we're going to follow those kind of behaviors. But in the Devil Summoner, we're following more shaman like behaviors. So like in the Devil Summoner series, um, some of the things you do is you speak to the dead. You go on a vision quest. So it's sort of a different sort of theology or mythology, whether or not you believe it or think it's fiction, that you're following. Or even you could say you sort of switch religion in the Devil Summoner series. And so your main spirit guide is Kinup, a fox spirit that you find. It's like your spirit animal that you find, and that spirit is the one that helps your character find a body and kind of solve the mystery behind like what's going on in the city.
Okay.
And the Devil Summoner series also, it doesn't lead to an apocalypse. This is just a modern world where we deal with the fact that demons exist. Not many people know that. And there's sort of a secret society of other devil summoners and systems in place that support them, that there's just this underbelly of people who deal with demons, who summon devils, who deal with those type of problems.
And that becomes somewhat the main theme of the Soul Hackers games after that,
Soul Hackers
right?
is a sequel, and even though it features different characters, it's a similar idea that it's a world where some people know about demons and can summon them, and they use a device called a GUMP, a gun computer, which I don't know how you can use that and also fire it with the keyboard on the side, but it's a weird looking thing. And they're like, what
Yu-Gi-Oh
if
kind
we
of might
added,
have figured it out.
yeah, maybe. They're like, what if we mix in cyberpunk themes into this world now? So, Devil Summoner 2, or Soul Hackers, is about a new age is about to happen. We're about to introduce the internet to people. That's basically the story. The internet is about to release. you people can go into chat rooms now. Unfortunately, these chat rooms are infested with not viruses, but demons that can take your body. So how do we deal with that? Well, we get a devil summoner who can go on vision quests, but now can surf the web like it's the Matrix and deal with these demons. It's like Digimon meets Shin Megami Tensei.
And so then is Rido the the series that takes place kind of as another offshoot of this as well, correct?
So Rido, so Devil Summoner series, the next one, the third one, is actually Rido.
Yes.
The talking about Rido. So in the first Devil Summoner game, the body you inhabit is a Kuzuhara. Is actually like the 20th descendant of Rido. And in Rido's game, which is the third game of the Devil Summoner series, you play Rido the 14th. And it takes place in a Japan that is doing pretty well. It's like an industrial revolution happened. We got like streetcars, we got electricity happening. But the capital is aware that because of trade with foreign countries, we may also get foreign deities that invade our country, like demons. So they secretly fund a Rido and others who are devil summoners to deal with demon problems in the capital. We also have a change in gameplay when we go to the Rido. We change from a turn-based RPG to a action RPG, where Rido actually you control him. It kind of feels like playing a little bit Kingdom Hearts or an RPG where you have two allies, which are your demons, attacking while you're attacking. I definitely recommend checking out Rido's remastered game that came out on the PS4 and PS5, I believe. I would check out his remastered.
And that's now there's a direct sequel to that one too, which we're not going to really get into right now.
Similar gameplay, just another story. That's where he deals with the King Abaddon. The first game he deals with the Soulless Army.
So if we jump back then to Shin Megami Tensei at this point, when did Nocturne come out? In comparison to all of the everything that comes in between, because there's also the Digital Devil Saga, and then there's the Game Boy or the DS games. There's a bunch of Game Boy games. There's all these other little spin-offs and stuff that kind of occur in between. Jack Bros on the Virtual Console. I don't want to get crucified for not mentioning it.
Oh yeah.
But all these little games kind of come out in between, based around Shin Megami Tensei, and as all this is happening, we have this gigantic dry spell from Shin Megami Tensei 2 to Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. Like, there's just no work on the mainline series. Was there really a plan to continue Shin Megami Tensei? Or were they just trying to see what stuck?
So what happened with the developers with Atlas is they got old. And
I guess.
But new gamers were coming onto the market. So there wasn't a push to continue Shin Megami Tensei because they felt it would alienate new gamers. And so when it came to the PlayStation era, it was throw stuff at it to see what sticks. And so the Devil Summoner series was their attempt to throw stuff at it to see what sticks, what resonates with younger people. The first attempt was a noir detective story. Does that stick? Okay, let's try a cyberpunk story. We hear The Matrix is a good movie. Let's try something like that. So that was Devil Summoner 2. Devil Summoner 3. Let's throw something as an alternative history and make it more action RPG. See if that sticks. Now, between Devil Summoner 2 and 3, we still had a couple more games that came out on the PlayStation. And someone at Atlas said, people really liked playing that Shin Megami Tensei If. What if we made another thing about high school kids? And so we released a game called Shin Megami Tensei Revelations Persona. And that was the first Persona game.
Yes. And that
And
game
in
came out on PlayStation 1 originally.
PlayStation 1 with a PSP with a PSP remake, which I can hear the soundtrack to right now.
um, and we never got the original Persona 1, right? We just got the PSP remake or relaunch.
I think we didn't get it, but I think Europe got it. I've seen some English box art, so I think we may not got it in the U.S., but Europe might have got it. No, someone got it because there's an awful English translation of Persona 1. It may have came out in the US.
We so through all that, and if we ignore the Game Boy Color collectathon game series, the what was it, Black and Red or something like that, where they're
Well, you got The Last Bible, and then you have
yeah,
Devil Children.
Devil Children. That was what it was.
Devil Children, Book Red, and Book Black.
Yes. Ah, see, I was right. Okay, I was like, man, that sounds familiar, but
Or
they're basically Pokemon collector games. And
when they came out in the US, they were called Demi Kids because they felt Devil Children wasn't the best thing to have on the cover.
what are you talking about? That's like that would have sold it. That would have sold that game series. Oh no, wait, maybe not. We're thinking of Western America in the '90s / early aughts.
When those games came out, they were called Pokemon from Hell.
Yeah, I can see Shin Megami Tensei probably would have gotten way more flack if it came out sooner than maybe Grand Theft Auto ever would have at the time. Just because of their attack, essentially, like their questioning of religion and other things like that, or using the term devil in stuff. Because D&D got that really bad, the Satanic Panic.
Satanic Panic.
And maybe that's why early SMT games never made it to the West until late. And then we really didn't break out. And then SMT really didn't break out until Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne came to the PS2.
Nocturne and Persona 3 probably solidified the need for SMT games in the US. Those two games helped bring more games over and helped bring older games to get translated over. But back to the original Persona, it's the first release of that game to us in the US, or was half of a game. They only bothered to translate half of the Persona game because in a lot of these games there's two paths, and they only translated one path, and they changed all the characters' names to English sounding names. And one guy, his name's Mark, they made him black because apparently they thought if a character's special ability is dancing, we got to change his color. Something.
Are you talking about Persona 1 or Persona 2?
Persona 1, yes.
Okay, that's a
Persona 1.
Okay.
Yes. And in the Persona game,
eliminated the other the other storyline. They
did.
They just took it out in the English version.
Yes. So the Persona 1 game, which is pretty interesting because you could say that Persona 3 is almost a remake of Persona 1. Persona 1 is about that there's this town that's been built around a large company called Seebeck, and this company is trying to study how to make infinite energy. They're making their own arc reactor. Well, they build this reactor, and an accident happens, and it's a portal to hell, and they let demons out.
Nice.
It's Doom.
Somebody's got to start Doom.
So that route was translated, so you get to play that in the original PlayStation release, where you and your classmates, and one of your classmates, Najo, I believe his name is, he's the rich snob kid whose dad is the head of this company. He's like, "Oh, I got to go help my dad," and you follow him, and you deal with the shenanigans of demons everywhere, and you're trying to figure out, you know, how do we piece the world back together? Because when this reactor blew, it merged the other world with the real world. So some places are like a demon version of what the real world place is. Like they're two different planes of reality, and they're intersecting with each other. And there's also that character in the game. I think her name's Mary in the English translation. This sick girl who's suddenly not sick and walking around. And it's like, Mary, you've been in the hospital for like years. Now you're walking around like you haven't been sick. What's going on? Oh, that's her dark version. So you're solving these mysteries as high school kids whose first thing they do when they leave the school is go to the police station and steal guns. Smart, smart. That's
Where
what I would
else
do if
do
we
you
became an
get
apocalypse.
guns? Come on.
Yeah, where else do you get guns? They're not in America. They got to go to a.
They have to go to the police station where they're allowed to have them.
Yeah.
The cops are like, oh well, you're in the police station, so you're allowed to have them here. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Actually, the cops turn into zombies, so you don't have to worry about it.
That's great. It's good times. But,
Yep.
So Persona though is its own series at this point. It's become a huge franchise on its own. It's got its own spin-offs and all this stuff like that. But Shin Megami Tensei though kind of just stopped at this point up until Shin Megami Tensei 3 came out. So can we talk about SMT 3 at this point, or are
You want to
still,
talk about SMT3?
or do you have more before SMT 3?
Well, technically, you have Persona 2's duology before you get to SMT3.
Oh, okay, that's true. Yeah, because those are all on the PS1 as well.
That's correct. So after Persona 1, and I want to talk about the deleted path that we didn't get till the PSP remake or remaster. We didn't get the Snow Queen quest, which is you have an option about leaving the school or staying in the school in the beginning of the game. And if you stay in the school too long, the school turns into an ice castle and you're trapped in it. And you're trapped in a dungeon that has to do with reenacting the play of the Snow Queen, which is basically the Frozen movie. Basically there's a demon like Elsa you have to deal with. You get trapped watching Frozen, I guess. And that quest was deleted out of the first English release of that game. So we got it back in the PSP release.
That's so wild that they would entirely remove a segment of the game just because they didn't want to translate it. Like,
they didn't want to translate it, and it was a harder dungeon, so they felt that us Americans didn't know how to handle difficulty, so they got rid of it.
That's such a wild concept, and you and I talked about this a little bit earlier today, that there's this thought process that American gamers at the time couldn't handle higher difficulties of certain things or like really hard RPGs when RPGs were mostly developed in the West originally. You have so many CRPGs like Ultima, and Wizardry and stuff that came from the West. And a lot of that is what drove people in Japan to make their own RPGs, like Ultima 4 at the time, having, so many different moral ambiguities to it. And then after that, having the Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy series come out of that, and then just assume that Western audiences aren't ready for it or can't handle it is such a strange concept to think about when RPGs in the West primarily kickstarted RPGs in Japan, So it's just, to me, that's so wild that they would think that something is so hard for American audiences that they would just delete it completely to remove it. It's so strange, to say the least.
Since Persona is a new sub-series, that means we have a brand new mythology, religion, theology to now make our theme, and we have to deal with Sigmund Freud psychology, Jung psychology. We have to deal with the idea that we are made up of multiple faces or personas, and that to be a whole individual, we must accept that there's different parts to us, that some parts of us are selfish, some parts of us are different. They're not something we want to show to the outside world. And so the Persona series deals with that type of stuff. It deals with the idea that to find that inner strength in you, you have to face all parts of you. And when you can't accept all the parts of you, then you may turn into a demon. You may become a dark version of yourself. You don't have the power to combat those other outside influences. So that started with Persona. It gets more established as we go down the Persona series, where we end up saying that bonds of friendship and heart and trust that you need that to exist in this world, you need to form bonds with other people. Um, and that's still more of the Jung philosophy over the Sigmund Freud philosophy of the selfish gene, that we need to establish connections to establish our existence, our identity. And so some people really like the Persona series because it's more it deals with more better themes of, friendship will solve everything. Or I also like how it deals with, in later games, you deal with the your selfish self, or you deal with aspects of yourself that you've tried to keep hidden. If you don't deal with those, you can't be complete. And that starts in this game, Persona, on the
You
PlayStation.
have to face
And
yourself, essentially. That's
yeah,
what
you
it
face
comes down to.
yourself. Yep. You're the We don't see him in other games too much, but in Persona 1, your new spirit guide, his name is Philemon. Philemon. I don't know how to pronounce his name off the top of my head.
Philemon.
Philemon, yes. And he has that mask on with the butterfly, and he's like your guide in the world. He basically tells you the themes, and he's the guy you go to when you need to fuse your personas. Now the combat's changed because now your characters can cast magic, because it's not about you having a party of demons. It's about you now have a guardian spirit that grants you the ability to use magic.
And there isn't any. Is there a demon fusion in Persona 1 and 2?
There is not demon. Okay. So fusion is treated as when you do two attacks together. So in the Persona and in Persona 2, fusion is when two two of your characters attack with abilities that can combine together to do more damage. That's a fusion attack.
Okay.
So it's not a fusion of your personas.
Right.
Instead, they change it to a currency based, where you have to collect tarot cards and you have to pay the cost at a shop to buy new personas. So everyone can equip personas. They have to buy new personas through the tarot card currency
Mm-hmm.
in the first two games.
I gotcha.
Persona 2, um, that's a tough one to talk about because there's only half the story out there for some people. But Persona 2 is separated into two parts. Innocent Sin is a sequel to Persona 1. There's some characters that return. And I'm not going to say anything about the story, but there's reasons why we didn't have in the US. There is a depiction of Hitler and Nazis being resurrected, and that probably wouldn't fly at that time. But Persona 1 ends with you lose.
I
So
mean,
now you got to do it again.
we did have a
I
lot
mean,
of
Persona 2,
comic
yeah.
books at the time where, like, Captain America was fighting Hitler directly. So I don't know how how sensitive people would have been at the time. I feel like it, to me, makes sense that it could still be a part of it, without pushing anything. Um, so so it is a strange way. We are at a strange time when this game comes out, where censorship in the United States is like very much throwing a dart in the darkness and hoping that you didn't hit the target because you don't want to hurt anybody. So they just kind of did a lot of things without any precedent. There was just a lot of context things that they just kind of did did this stuff with, and we can kind of blame the Reagan era at the time because I don't. It was where they had created. They had basically instructed censorship. You know, like you couldn't have cigarettes in kid shows or something. Like you couldn't depict people smoking in like kid shows and other things like that, where they had to have lessons applied to children's television and other things like that. And this was that was beforehand, but it could just be a bit of an artifact to that situation.
It wasn't just Hitler in that game. There was a character that pretty much was closet gay
Okay.
in Persona 2. And Persona 2, I would say the tagline for the duology is that the problem, that the inciting incident in that world is somehow rumors become reality. What if I just started saying some false stuff and it just happened
Mm-hmm.
because you listened to me say it, and we just spread misinformation and it just happens. Like something magical out there just makes it happen. And the beginning instant for the kids in school is that there's a rumor that you can call your own phone number, and if someone answers, then you're talking to this figure called the Joker, and you can make him kill someone for you.
All
I
right.
mean, reality, like if I called my own phone number, it wouldn't dial. Like that doesn't make sense. But somehow this magic of making rumors reality can cause really weird things to happen.
And is that the theme that persists into the second part two of Persona 2 then?
So the rumor stuff does, yes. But Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, the sequel to Innocent Sin, is that one character, he takes the blame for everything to sort of restart the world for the sequel so that they can try again to defeat this what's causing the situation. And so the world restarts, but a lot of the characters are now older in this second go at it. And so Eternal Punishment is the first Persona game to have a whole cast of people who aren't in school. They graduated. They're adults. It's the first adult cast in a Persona game.
And the only one so far.
So far, yes.
um, so that's kind of it for the PS1 titles then, right? For the SMT
Yeah.
stuff. So
And sadly, Atlas has not helped us out in the US be able to experience both games at the same time. Unfortunately, in the US, we got Eternal Punishments because it had less Nazis in it and other stuff. So we got that version, that game first. We didn't get Innocent Sin till the PSP remakes that Atlas was doing when we got Persona 1 and then we got Persona 2 Innocent Sin. And then right around the time when Eternal Punishment got a PSP remake, I guess we just stopped getting PSP games because we didn't get it.
that's it. That's what a shame.
What
So
a shame. You cannot play the duology the way it's intended to be played.
you have to literally play the PSP game in English and then go back to the super expensive PS1 game to play the rest
Yes.
of it.
The inferior version too,
Yeah.
because you just got done with this great quality of life upgrade PSP version of part one, and then you're like, well, I gotta finish the story. Let me downgrade.
Yeah, yeah. U.S. audiences basically got, or English speaking audiences basically got screwed on that one, unfortunately. Like, because they were
I
coming
mean,
out with it, it was coming out. It was already developed. It was made. It just was
it's
never translated.
it's the 40th anniversary of the Persona franchise this year,
Yeah.
and it would be great if Atlas was like, okay, we figured it out. We got all the games on the virtual console, all the best versions. Here you go, fans.
It'd be nice.
And then Persona 6 is like another 2 years off. But you know,
I hope we do get an announcement this year. That would be cool. So from that point, then, after the end of the PS1 era of SMT titles, we can jump into the PS2 now. Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go to Nocturne.
So let's start with Nocturne right away. because the DS games came out later than this. So, and Nocturne just got a re-release, a high def re-release. So you can play
Yes,
this.
it does.
Yeah.
On the Switch.
Yeah. So you can play this right now with a more modern kind of feel to it.
On Steam.
Yeah. Now, did SMT3 Nocturne still have that overworld map thing where you're that little tiny icon with the little round head moving around?
It does.
All right.
Yeah.
So that
The map's a bit
persists.
more spherical, but yes, it's got more curves to it.
So that persists until SMT5, where it's gone. SMT5 is almost like a total diversion from the original formula for everything SMT related. And I don't mean to talk about it completely, but the cool thing about SMT 3, 4, 2, 1 is they all feel really similar gameplay wise.
Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne is a turning point for Atlas. Funny enough, the idea for Shin Megami Tensei 3, and we call it Nocturne, but Nocturne is actually the subtitle given to it when it got released again, like a second edition to it. SMT3, the director who's about to work on it, he just got done watching a music video by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, where they're out in this desert, just singing, dancing. This, I don't know what music video that is, but it made him think about a desert world, just nothing but sand and buildings. And then he just went from there and designed the idea of what if Earth was like flipped inside out? What if, like, instead of us being on the outside of the sphere, we're on the inside of the sphere? And that idea is then went to create SMT3. SMT3 also abandons the law and chaos alignment. Yes, give it away. That's the video. Thank you, Daspra.
Give me 1 second. I gotta check my phone.
And SMT3 was such a departure because you also don't play a human. You play the Demi-Fiend. Oh, thank you, Daspra. Well, I guess I'll continue talking while the host is gone. So Shin Megami Tensei 3 was the first this game released on the PS2. A lot of the assets they developed for Shin Megami Tensei 3 would lead to them for doing future projects. And the idea behind not doing alignment was to have more great choices that you could pick an ending that you felt more satisfied the way you were playing or what you believed in. I enjoy how difficult SMT3 is. It became one of those Dark Souls type games where, if you can beat SMT3, then you must be a god, because that is the SMT difficult game. Moving on from SMT3, they used that game engine and the assets that they had come up with, the new art assets for the demons, to make some other offshoot games. That would then use those assets for the Raito games, which we talked about. The 2 Raito games, reusing those assets, having a different combat system set in a pre-World War II Japan, being more of a detective and action RPG game. Then they went on to make another duology game called the Digital Devil Saga, which is based off, as we switch to a new theology, religion, mythology, we switch to Buddhism, reincarnation. So in the Digital Devils Saga, that game is set in a world called the Wasteland, where tribes are fighting over resources. They defend their areas, their sectors, from other competing tribes. And they have been fighting for many, many years in this bleak world of very little to fight over. And in one of their conflicts, a girl shows up and everyone gets infected with something where they all can turn into demons. And they're told that the only way to survive in this world now is to eat, to devour. And they have the insatiable hunger that they turn into demons and have to eat something. And if they go hungry, they will turn into this uncontrollable demon form. And the artwork, the style of this game, it reminds me of when you watch the Matrix movie and you see the 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 condition of the humans who are unplugged. That's what they look like. They got like these suits, these outfits of these like where and they're all skinny and they're all
They're in the
dying of
freezer.
hunger, and now they turn into demons that have to eat to survive.
Okay, quiet, please.
Spoiler warning, if you're going to play Digital Devil Saga, then do not listen to me right now talk about Digital Devil Saga 2. Okay. Digital Devil Saga 2, everything that happened in the first game was a computer program. It's not real. Second game deals with a utopia world that apparently has these battle programs, and you were just a battle program that people watched for fun. All right, done with Digital Devil Saga.
That series specifically is like super hard too, isn't it? Like Digital Devil Saga.
Digital Devil Saga. So Digital Devil Saga is the closest to a Final Fantasy type game because it doesn't include any demon fusion, doesn't include recruiting demons. You do not have any way of changing like into different personas. None of that's in there. It's a very, it's like you're playing their version of Final Fantasy X. You have characters who have skill trees that can learn skills, but it is probably a good introduction to the Shin Megami Tensei world without having to step into the gameplay too much, because it's very similar to every other RPG. The Buddhism featured in that series, though, can be a little bit over your head. There are some concepts that aren't properly explained in the sequel that I felt like, while it's interesting for that twist when you get to the sequel, the story there kind of runs out of gas. It did its Shyamalan twist, and then it didn't have anything after that.
I totally had to answer a message. I'm sorry. What was the last game you were talking about?
Digital Devil Saga.
Oh, okay. You were just finishing off Digital Devil Saga. Yeah. It, honestly, that's a very good. I really like the story for Digital Devil Saga. If you're gonna play any spin-offs like that, those two back to back are actually really fun. And content-wise, if you play through the first game, you can do carryover data from your memory card to the second game. You do not need to do that at all if you don't want to, but you can, and it actually makes it actually adds content to the second game, like for certain characters and stuff like that. I will say Digital Devil Saga 2 is really tough, and I think having that extra content is really worthwhile if you plan to play through them at all. So
Do you think that the part two, do you think it has as good of a story as part one?
I would say I think part two's story is overall I like part two's story better, but I think part
Really?
one actually has like because it doesn't go into like the whole god like complex or like stuff, and part one kind of has like a better like you deal more with the characters and like the stuff they're facing versus like the world problems and stuff like that. Where two kind of almost sidelines everybody, like heat in them and whatnot in it. I only remember Heat's name because he was my favorite character, or the pink one with the boobs that are
Hello?
both two mouths.
Oh, yeah.
But like they those characters are like they kind of just like pushed to the side in the second game. In the first game, all the characters you play with and play as are actually like the game is about them. So
Well, I can understand why they're pushed aside. They're not exactly seen as human in the second part.
right. Well, and also it's really kind of about your character and then the other female lead and stuff. So
Hmm.
um, if we're kind of still in this era, then the DS games or the well of the tactical games, the SMT tactical games. Oh, why can't I
Yes.
think of the name?
It's Oh, you're talking about the Devil
Survivor.
Survivor
Yeah, one and two.
because Nintendo had this habit of, I don't know if they just told people who made games on their console, somehow make it work with the console's name. So if you're going to be on the DS, the name has to be DS something. Or if you're going to be on the N64, you better add 64 at the end.
I feel like it was a joke trend on its own.
Yes, Dawn of Sorrow. Um,
But Devil Survivor is, I believe, it's considered one of the hardest SMT titles out there.
the original Devil Survivor is pretty hard. It was basically SMT's version of Fire Emblem. They made a tactical game. It's not the first time they made a tactical game. There's a alternate history Megami Tensei game that's a tactical game that came out on the Nintendo. We never got it. That was a tactical game. It was set in sort of like a medieval time, but you have demons. But for Devil Survivor, the idea was let's do another story where the apocalypse is about to happen, and let's follow kids as they try to survive in Tokyo during this apocalypse. And the game mechanic for Devil Survivor was it's part graphic novel, part visual novel, part game with a limited amount of time to do things. That you have 7 days to play the game, and the game keeps track of when you do an action that costs an hour. So once you used up all your time, you either continue to the next day or you reach a fail state and have to start over. So it was a very narratively it was a very interesting game because you're trying to make the choices narrative wise to like get you out of Tokyo, out of the city within 7 days. And then gameplay wise, you are still collecting demons, fusing demons, but you're moving on a grid to get in range to attack another demon. So you have that added tactical um, element to it of now I have to worry about, moving on a map to get in range to attack.
And the fun thing about the tactical games too is it still has all the demon summoning stuff. It has all the demon fusion junk. But like the the storyline stuff is from a point of when demons collide with Earth, essentially, let's say, and everybody is dealing with it over the course of a week. Both games are the same way. With you have essentially it's a week. Demons have been released on Japan. They're quarantining Tokyo. You're stuck in there and you're trying to figure out what's going on while you're stuck inside of a military quarantine. And slowly, like, all this outside stuff in the world is going on, and just like everything's like leaking into Tokyo or trying to get into Tokyo, and humans are basically surviving and the military's there, but then like towards the end the military's like been totally killed or wiped out for the most part. All this other really cool stuff. The story concepts are really cool for it because it's like a what if, it's another what if scenario. How would people react in this situation? And
It's like, yeah.
sorry. Go
It's
on.
like a disaster movie is
Yeah.
added to the game. So like now you're part of like the San Andreas fault line like breaks or something like, oh no, there's an earthquake going on. So you add that on top of demon invasion. So you now have these natural you have these emergencies caused by the destruction of the city and such. Trying to get water. In the game, your comp is an actual DS. In the game, you receive a Nintendo DS that's been hacked that can summon demons. And one of the situations in the game is my batteries are dying. We got to find a charger for this thing.
Yeah. You're dealing with real life scenarios caused by the demon apocalypse. And I think that's my favorite thing about the Devil Survivor games. Is just the concept of having to survive this whole thing, and eventually you fight like some sort of godlike being in the end or something or whatever. And it depends on which ending you take to changes the final boss that you fight, and that all depends on what characters you recruit in your team, because there's characters that you can have, and then if you fill up your entire party with certain characters, you lock out like two or three depending on the game, I believe. And then those people literally, those characters you don't recruit, they die. like they die because you're not there to save them or protect them or whatever it is. Their stories end and you can't continue with them, so you have to replay the game again, just to get all their endings. And replaying the game is good, easy to do, because you can do so with like a new game plus. Like you get more your demons from a previous run, which a lot of SMT games do as well. So yeah, they are one of my favorites is the Devil Survivor games. The second one came out on the 3DS, I believe.
Both
Right?
came out on the DS,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
they both received 3DS remasters.
Yes. Overclocked, right?
Overclocked, and then we have Break Record
Okay.
or Record Breaker.
Record breaker. Yeah. Relatively expensive games to pick up, but definitely if you get the chance to do so, find them if you can. Get them. They're good. They're really good. But I believe they're only available on the DS and 3DS remakes. So.
Yes, they're good for adding that tactical to it. It's like, hey, I kind of want Fire Emblem with demons in a modern day setting. I will say that the Survivor series, this is an introduction to using anime artists for their character designs. The same artists who did this would do the anime Durarara, and then also we will receive an anime adaptation of Devil Survivor 2 would be turned into an animated TV series. And this animator, this artist, he sure likes to draw them a certain way.
Which way is that, Sean?
I'm not going to elaborate.
I was gonna say, which way is that, Sean? I said as I was
Well,
muted.
if you ever look up the character art for Yoo-Hoo or basically any female in the Devil Survivor series, yeah, they're like head shape. It's weird.
He's got a type, and it's a
Got a type, yeah.
it's not horrible, but it's
Hmm.
it's very retro anime-ish.
Same character designer for the Digimon games, the latest ones. He went on to do the character art for what's the newest one? The Cyber Sleuth series. He does the character art.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very unique. So what other series do we have to talk about before we get to SMT4?
So we have what was going to be SMT3 but didn't. We have Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, which was a proposed mainline game that got changed to Strange Journey because a new a new rule was SMT games have to be in Japan. And if you're not in Japan, then you can't be an SMT mainline game. Strange Journey is my favorite SMT game by far. It is the original Strange Journey, my favorite game. I really like dungeon crawlers like Etron Odyssey. Those are great games. If you ever played Etron Odyssey, they should make another one. I don't know why that series is not continuing. It's a great series. So when they made a game that is set in the SMT universe that plays just like Etron Odyssey, I had to get it. Had to play it. Strange Journey also feels like the easiest game to adapt to a movie because we basically got a movie similar to that with Alien versus Predator. We could get at opening to Strange Journey a multinational research team where a weird void is discovered in Antarctica, and we need to send the best and the brightest to investigate it. It's and we need to send them with specialized equipment and ships to go into this weird black void that is growing, that's going to encompass the Earth. We need to send people into that and find out what's in there and how to stop it from growing. And that is such an interesting premise. Well, you know what it is? Apparently it's open to parallel dimensions that just have demons in there.
Hey, I mean,
And it's old. Yeah.
we're not tackling other religious things. We're not tackling other psychological stuff. It's just good old demons coming from hell.
Well, there is a psychological thing. This is actually Strange Journey does have an underlying theme that this that humanity is going to kill themselves due to the way they treat the earth. It's actually um, if you play the game and you think about it, it's actually it's about taking care of your planet and taking care of things and being in tune with nature. Because if you're not, then you're just going to get wiped out and some other species is going to take over, like demons. And so I like the fact that we have adult cast again. It's not kids. We have adults pretty much acting like adults as they converse with each other and try to figure out logically how to deal with these challenges. And demons are a real threat. People die. There isn't like, and humans are frail. I mean, yeah, we've got guns, we got, body armor, but that doesn't do much against something that can just cast a fireball at you or it's going to eat you alive. It is a brutal game. The difficulty is brutal. The story is very like, yeah, humanity's at the edge here, but we got to triumph, or just there's not going to be a future for us. I really enjoy that.
I look forward to
It's the
checking out
best.
Strange Journey. Then it's been a minute.
Oh, it's so good.
I've tried it. I've played all the Etron Odyssey titles, so I gotta get down and try it, give it a shot. Because we also have Persona Q 1 and 2 that are very much made by the Etron Odyssey team. So I'd like to kind of get more into that. And SMT kind of almost has, in general, a lot of SMT games have that first person dungeon crawl stuff that Etron Odyssey does utilize. So I kind of feel like it's like even the older games are more my thing too, and I've just never really given them a chance.
There is a manga version of Strange Journey, and it talks about basically a B team, like another team, not the main characters. And it's got the weirdest title. And I don't know if I could say it right, but the title of it is Death to Mint. Death to Mint. Like Testament, but it's Death to Mint. I just think that's a funny, weird word that for a
They just
title of a
kind
manga.
of made up their own word, basically.
Got to go read Strange Journey, Death to Mint.
Testament, the Testament.
The Death to Mint.
So then, for our last DS game, essentially, is SMT4, and
Yes, the actual
well,
SMT
not our last
sequel to
one
SMT3.
because Apocalypse comes after that. But
Okay. So the pseudo sequel Apocalypse.
we're getting through a lot of this pretty
Um,
quick. I don't think we're gonna need a part two.
no.
For this stuff.
All right, let me get my SMT4. I think the funniest thing about SMT4 coming out in the US is it had to come in this big box because they had to include a walkthrough.
Uh,
They were so afraid that us gamers didn't know how to play this game that they included a walkthrough that takes you through half the game.
and not just the first dungeon, which honestly could use a walkthrough, I suppose.
Yes.
Um,
Shin Megami Tensei 4 is a really good. Like if
it's good.
Strange Journey didn't exist, then SMT4 would be my favorite game. It's my second favorite game, SMT4.
I really enjoyed SMT4, and I'm glad I took the plunge on it when it wasn't super expensive. I
SMT4 is it polishes SMT3. SMT3 is kind of difficult to get into. You know, Nocturne on the PS2, it's still kind of like feeling its way around the gameplay. You know, it's like you have to like know ahead of time what you're going to run into. And SMT4 polishes that gameplay, gives you a fighting chance, and the story, oh, the story so good.
and it's a pretty long game too. I think it's about 80-90 hours just to get through the whole
It's a
thing.
long game, and you can play it again. You can replay it.
I mean, yeah,
Multiple endings.
yeah. There's multiple endings, and the cool thing about SMT4's endings is that they are all like really solid endings. Like all of them. The neutral ending, the law ending, and then the chaos ending are all really solid to play with their own boss fights and their own way to handle it. There's even like a whole each one branches you off into a different segment of the game to go through, and you start out as yourself just a normal dude in where I don't really want to talk about where you're from or whatnot, but like you have
And
friends in the beginning, and each one dictates a different ending, and you all split up after the first chapter of the game, and then you kind of, depending on the direction you go, depends on whether or not you team up with with one of your old party members, or you face off against them towards the end. It's really cool.
so SMT4 is like also it's a celebration of SMT as a franchise. SMT4 features the most cameos of other characters, and it features a lot of references to older games. The armor from Strange Journey shows up in SMT4. There's areas in the game that are from other SMT games. The Demi Fiend from SMT3 shows up in SMT4. And then the idea of going back to your friends or allies being representation of law, neutral, and
No
chaos
way.
is going back to the original SMT, where how your party members are
Please
that you
be
first
quiet.
meet are representations of law and chaos. So also SMT4 is such a good game. It's one of the rare games that Atlas didn't remaster a year later. There is no like SMT4 Golden Edition or SMT4 Royal. It was perfect the day it was made.
Well, we do have SMT4 Apocalypse, which comes out
Yes,
afterwards,
Apocalypse.
but
So
it is yeah, it is not a. It's another what if scenario though. It's not a sequel. It's not a remake, right? I believe.
so SMT4 Apocalypse is actually the English title. In Japan, it's called SMT4 Anarchy. And you can tell it's supposed to be anarchy if you look at the way that A is drawn on the box art. But apparently the word anarchy is just not it's we can't put that in the US. We'll call it apocalypse.
Yeah. Apparently, our
But
government isn't
SMT
as free as we thought it was.
I guess we can't use the word anarchy. But SMT4 Apocalypse is a it is set after SMT4, but it's an alternative ending. It's like an ending you might not have been able to choose in SMT4. And you follow. So in SMT4, you play as a character who's discovering the world. So there's a lot of things revealed to you in that original main game. But in SMT4 Apocalypse, you're now playing a character who's been in this world. You've been in this world. You've been in. You know what's out there, and you're trying to survive in this world of demons and angels fighting. The main thing that happens to you that will end up being a recurring thing in other games is that your character dies in the beginning of the game and has to be resurrected and inhabited by a god. And then you sort of have to serve the wishes of that god. If you were to play the series, to answer Dasbroke, you would want to play SMT4 first before you play Apocalypse, because the opening scenes in Apocalypse will spoil many of the things that happen in SMT4.
Yeah,
There
and
is no transfer of saves or anything, so like they are two standalone games. But story-wise, the original SMT4 base game is better to play so that you don't get spoiled about stuff by playing Apocalypse
yeah, you do.
before it.
Yeah, definitely play the first one. Honestly, you don't even need to touch Apocalypse, but Apocalypse is really well done too.
Apocalypse has sometimes been referred to as the cookie cutter anime version of SMT4 because it doesn't feature the same difficulty. It feels kind of episodic when you're playing it, where in the game you encounter someone, you help them with their ordeal, and then they move on. And then you go to the next area, you encounter someone. It's kind of like how Ash kept getting sidetracked from like actually getting badges and helping someone every episode in Pokemon. That's kind of what Apocalypse kind of feels like, that there's a lot of filler stuff and a lot of like, today on Apocalypse, you're going to do this.
Um, yes, and there's no canon ending from the first game that goes into Apocalypse. You can, but playing Apocalypse will reveal a lot of information about SMT4.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what ending you get in the first game, as long as you've played it or almost all of it, you could start Apocalypse afterwards.
SMT4 is a good starting game for anyone who's interested in getting into that classic SMT gameplay. You know, maybe they don't want to do the strategy game. Maybe they don't want to play an action game. They want that classic turn-based. SMT4 is the best, probably entry to that. If you have a 3DS, and you can play it.
Um, so so aside from that, before we move further on, let's talk about Persona 3 and 4.
Okay.
Um, so
Um,
because Persona 3 and 4 were both on the PlayStation 2. We haven't touched that yet. We are kind of getting ahead at that point with the talking about the 3DS. But Persona 3 just had a reload come out, a full reboot slash remake of the game. Um, Persona 3 is a total revamp of the Persona series as a whole. But it still has a lot of older hangovers from previous games too. Still, like you only, in the first one before the other ones came out, you only had control of the main character, and the other three characters you had in your party were totally NPC controlled. And they would attack enemy weaknesses as long as the AI knew what the weakness was. As long as the weakness was revealed on the AI, it would do that for you. So while you didn't have full control, you still had control of your main character and your main character's personas, and you could fuse and all that stuff like that. And this was the first inclusion of the Velvet Room, which became a main staple afterwards. Is there a Velvet Room in Persona 2?
there's a Velvet Room in all Persona games.
Is there?
Yes, there's a Velvet Room in Persona 2. In fact, I like the Velvet Room in Persona 2 because there's a lady that plays the piano in it. And there's a Velvet Room in the original Persona. But if you're saying about Igor, Igor is in Persona 2 and 3, but he's not in 1.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're getting like essentially like what makes Persona Persona by this point. Persona 3 has kind of like become like the definitive baseline for what Persona is at this point, though, continuing certain themes like the Velvet Room and Fusion, and which Fusion though is across almost every SMT game, which is in part the demon fusing is kind of one thing that I feel like is what makes a Shin Megami Tensei game a Shin Megami Tensei game. And Persona 3 begins the stuff where we start to see everybody. We have the tarot card system kind of become a main staple, right?
I That doesn't sound like Persona 3. So Persona 3 actually adds light novel slash like visual novel aesthetics to the game, and it's not about dungeon crawling as much as the previous games were, and so it changes its identity by being more about making decisions like you would do in like one of those dating games where you'd make decisions during the day and then you would go to the dungeon at night. So Persona 3 invented the new style of what would follow for Persona games. There are no tarot cards in. Okay, I know, I
You
understand
know
what
what
you're
I'm
talking
talking
about.
about,
Okay,
right? Okay.
you're talking about social links.
Yes.
So I was thinking you're talking about tarot cards as a currency, as the previous Persona games did. No, you're talking about social links. So this is continuing the. It's adding on to the like the Jung philosophy about
The
the
Freudian
different.
philosophy stuff, right?
Well,
Or is that
we
what you
do
mean?
have some Freudian, but Freudian wasn't necessarily Jung or Jung, the German the German psychology about the many faces, the man with many faces. The idea that what so I look at myself and I see something. You look at me and you see someone else. How we're personified, how we are identified is different in everyone's mind. You know, what you think of me is different than what I think of myself, and what someone else thinks of me is different than what you think of me. These are different identities, different masks. And so when we establish stronger social links with people, we establish a stronger identity in that person. And so that's added on to the Persona games. And so we need to not only accept the many different masks in us, we need to also help people accept um, their mask or what they think our mask is. And so that gets added in with Persona 3. We also have to deal with death. Persona 3's theme is about death, accepting death, knowing death comes, how to deal with death. It also feels like an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with all the wacky characters. But it's a great game, and it's definitely a good game to introduce someone to the Persona series, even though it is more difficult than the other Persona games. But I do agree with you how you said this sets the standard for Persona games because it does. Everything after this is Persona 3.
It's and I do hope they continue with this stuff as a standard because if you play Persona 5, everything in Persona 3 is everything from Persona 3 is pretty much in 5, you know. And 5 doesn't really like expand on it essentially, you know, it doesn't really change anything. You know, we get all out attacks, but that started in Persona 3 as well, you know, and but it's slightly different in Persona 3. But still, you know, like it's just it is primarily about the characters and the character development stuff in the first game and somewhat the second game, but then they kind of started to realize they wanted more unique dungeons by Persona 4. Whereas in Persona 3 you play in one dungeon the whole time and it's completely randomized.
Yeah.
But they bring that exact dungeon back essentially in Persona 5 with the subway dungeon. It's just
Persona 3 references the original Persona by having a company. Instead of being the Sebek company, it's the Sanjo company. They do exactly the same thing. They build an unlimited energy generator that blows up and sends demons in the world. It's the same thing that happened in Persona 1.
reoccurring themes, and
But
you know, there's a lot
yeah,
of things in the SMT series in general where you can see one game borrows from another or adds on to something, but they all have kind of like a base flavor to them, you know, with demon
yeah.
summoning and 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 the the thing I've noticed about the SMT games is that if you do not focus on using your buffs, hitting enemy weaknesses, and you just go in and you just think you can just attack, however, just normal, you're never gonna win. You just can't. It's just not possible. It's one thing that I really like about the SMT games is that it really gets you thinking, what are enemies weak to? How do I fight them better? And it makes you utilize your buffs. It makes you use those attack ups, those defense ups, those speed ups. Get that agility up and all that. Whereas you have games like Pokemon that have buff stat abilities, you just don't even need. You just womp through stuff and you make it easy, right? There's a lot of RPGs that are kind of like that, where you can just play as an attacker and you just attack, even though you have buff options. You do, but Shin Megami Tensei always makes you use them. Otherwise, you lose. You'll have a tough time going for it, I should say, for the most part.
I see footage up there is from Shin Megami Tensei 9, which none of us probably ever played. It was a failed attempt on the Xbox to have an MMO.
It definitely looks MMO like.
Yep, that was an MMO for the Xbox when Xbox was pushing to get Japanese players. They gave Atlas a bunch of money to be like, can you make something for the Xbox? And can you do it so like it uses the internet?
And 9 is a precursor to the actual Shin Megami Tensei MMO that came out, right?
Um, no, it's actually a failed attempt. So 9 was going to be an MMO. In the end, they only got the prologue done, which ended up being an offline version you could buy while they were working on the online version, and they never got that done. It's called 9 because it has 9 different alignments. It basically uses all the alignments in D&D, chaotic neutral, um, lawful neutral. It uses all 9. But in the end, it's a failed project.
Yeah, I can kind of see watching this film or watching this YouTube video how bad it actually is. Look at this character running off in the distance into the pavement.
There was an MMO that came out, and I played it. You can't play it anymore unless you find someone who's like saved it on the internet. I played Shin Megami Tensei Imagine Online. That was put out by Nexon. I believe they put out other games like Maple Story, and they put out an English version. I played that when I was in college, and it is set back in the old games. It's set in the same world as Shin Megami Tensei 2, where it's humans living in bunkers, dealing with demons out on the surface. Like if SMT Fallout, I guess you could call it. And it was a fun little MMO, very grindy. It had a unique system where you only leveled up things that you were doing. So if you shot your gun a lot, then your gun skill went up. If you hit something with a sword, then your sword skill went up. So you leveled up your actions individually. That even meant like dodging. You'd have to dodge to level up dodging.
Um, so, so it really doesn't have any bearing on anything.
Story-wise, Imagine really didn't have a story. There was a little bit of story about um, they had created soulless humans as a labor force, and there was possibly maybe a story about maybe that's a bad thing to do, to make a bunch of empty shell humans for a labor force, because maybe we should treat them like humans. But not much story other than that. Just a lot of references to other SMT games and a lot of dungeon grinding, and it took forever to level up. It was a long, tedious, and it got to the point where you didn't get enough money on a dungeon run to fix your broken equipment. So it was a very tedious dungeon grinding, but it was something to do on college nights.
So then moving on then, let's say. Uh, we have Persona 4, which is the last PS2 Persona game, or last PS2 SMT game, because it was like came out super late in the PlayStation's life cycle. Um, Basically, was just like a massive hit when it came out. Um, Incredible music, incredible gameplay. It feels good to play. It feels good to experience. Um, you know, to get into the murder mystery that's going on and all the stuff and learning who the characters are. And we've all talked about Persona 4 already because we played it last year for one of our quarterly games, and so I don't really have like a ton to say about it. But if you have anymore at this point, but if you, Sean,
Um,
have more to bring into that fold, I'd like to hear what you have to say about Persona 4 in terms of it's kind of like how it came out and how it was kind of received, and what kind of happened, because we got Golden out of it and now we're getting a big remake.
yeah, I don't think it needs a remake. I would just like to have Golden available on modern consoles. Um, but because I think it's good. It's already good. I don't know what you can do. Persona 4 is just more Persona, and it didn't reinvent anything. It didn't really like do anything different from Persona 3. I think it's more accessible than Persona 3, with a lot more options. I think the cast is a little more. Uh, it's more memorable as a cast. I do like how there is there's some debate about whether or not there's inclusion in Persona 4. I think you can find a character you can relate to in Persona 4, so I do enjoy the diversity that it has. Um, I don't go back to it that often because yeah, I've played enough of it. I don't think it offers much of a challenge. Um,
I
but
wouldn't
it's a
call
good
it a
game.
hard game.
No, I wouldn't. There's an anime for Persona 4, and
Two.
then they even yeah, they made a golden version of the anime. So, so nice they did it twice.
Well, they just basically you could watch both animes in tandem and kind of pick out when the golden episodes come in versus when the main parts of it come in. Um,
I mean,
uh,
you got some catchy stuff, every day's great
yeah,
at your
I mean,
gymness.
in terms of like improvements, I mean they fixed the combat a little bit. They tweaked the combat a bit in Persona 4, where you weren't just controlling your main character; you had control of the whole party. Um, you leveled up your party's personas through uh, the whatever the friendship system stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
they would change into bigger personas, not from just gameplay wise, but through their your relationship with them. Uh, there were a lot of other things that like they kind of streamlined by this point, where it was kind of becoming a little more like yeah, it's like, oh yes, this should be this way, or this should, they kind of really fleshed it out a lot more, that and didn't make it convoluted. They could have very easily put in more stuff that made it worse, but I don't think they did. And I do though think that the experience of adding the story though of Golden's little DLC story stuff at the end though kind of detracted from, in my opinion, what Persona 4 was originally about. And I don't like the extra dungeon stuff at the end, and I did not like it for Persona 5 when they did it. I do not like Royal.
I there is a rumor that possibly during development, Nauta was uh supposed to be like the last descendant of Raido, and since she's a girl, the Raido bloodline ended because it's
Oh
only
wow.
males that are Raido. And so that might be why her character design features a similar type of police outfit on, and why part of her story is that she's ashamed for being a woman because she can't continue her family's being detective for her family. So in early development, it's kind of rumored that it was going to be a female Raido in Persona 4.
That's actually kind of interesting little tidbit there. Is the Persona series, is that based off the Devil Summoner, another spin-off off Devil Summoner specifically, or
So
is it just its own thing, right?
everything's technically connected because of the Amala network, which I guess I should explain what that is. The Amala network first talked about in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. The Amala network is an ever-flowing, like sort of like a life stream or blood that connects all planes of existence. And during when you play Shin Megami Tensei 3 and when you teleport to other areas, quick travel, you're technically traveling on that Amala network. And sometimes you get interrupted and attacked by a fiend. And fiends are from other planes of existence. And they're attacking you because they're entering the Amala network. Well, other games in the series, when you encounter characters from other games, it's because they also can travel on the Amala network. So they can come visit your game, your universe, your plane of existence. Now, it's not the Amala network is not necessarily talked about in other games, but that's the theory that everything's connected by the Amala network. So characters from other games can potentially visit other series. And we know that Raito can travel the Amala network because he's in the SMT games. He's in the he's got his own sub franchise. He showed up in an SMT. I believe he shows up in SMT 5. And apparently Dante from Devil May Cry somehow fell in the Amala network and showed up in SMT 3.
Yeah. Dante can travel through it. Demi Fiend can travel through it. There's DLC for Shin Megami Tensei for Apocalypse where all the main characters from the other SMT games show up too. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Amala Network stuff, but I mean, if they show up there, it could just be that. It could be part of that, you know.
Well, the Nakabiho and Aegis show up in Etran Odyssey, so maybe that's connected.
That's true. That's what it is. I mean, they really branch out to a lot of stuff. I mean, you also got Catherine, the main character Vincent from that, shows up in Persona 3. You know, he could have traveled the Amala network, or Catherine is just in the Persona 3 universe. So
I like to think it's in the Persona 3 universe because Vincent's at the bar complaining that he can't sleep. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, that's really funny.
He's in Persona 3 Portable. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, he's only in Persona 3 Portable. Catherine came out just before then.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Where are we at on this? We wrapped up Persona 1 through 4.
Let's see here.
SMT4. I think at this point we're at the PlayStation 3 era, and this is when Persona 5 came out.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of our next one is Persona 5.
Persona 5, man, I don't know about that one. Oh, hey. Yeah, I like Persona 5. I do.
So good. It's super
the
good.
first. It's the first SMT game that my wife ever saw me play, so she likes it. I got to get her to play SMT games, but Persona 5, that is such a great starter game for someone, and it's such a great refining of the system. I love the fact that we take social links and we say not only are social links important, social links with people get you other stuff. When you do stuff for people, you get their social link up, you're going to be rewarded with like in-game mechanics, other things outside the game to help you. And it's such a great story that's not necessarily stuck in sort of the, knowing the religion and mythology. It's those darn adults. We're just kids. We're delinquents, but we're going to stick it to the man. Such an easy story to relate to. No deep mythology unless you play Persona 5 Royal because some messed up psychiatrist starts showing up. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Doesn't change the formula, but it sure refines it. That's man, now it's crystal crack now.
well, I mean, if I don't know where else they could go with the Persona series after this, but I do hope they do a good job going forward with Persona 6 when that comes out. Like
I would
that,
like to
it
see them lead.
really
Yeah.
takes that formula and just runs with it because it does so well with Persona 5. I have a hard time seeing how they could do more with it without over adding to the series or just doing too much. And I feel like there's a lot that happens in Persona 5. You know, there's so many activities and things to do in between dungeons and whatnot. It can feel like there's too much to do.
It
Especially when they add Royal on, where they add other stuff too, like playing darts.
I mean, yeah, I'm not really a fan of Royal. I mean, I like the gameplay changes, but the addition of another female character with red hair, which apparently is
Yeah,
Atlas thing to do. Wait a year, we'll add a girl with red hair. She's mysterious. Probably not.
I,
But
I'm
I
not a
do
fan
like
of
its
that.
story against yeah, I like its story against capitalism. Man, it really hates capitalism in Persona 5.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, you're a thief and all that stuff like that, which is fair. Whatever, you know. But then they made
I
a
mean,
bunch
someone
of Persona 5 spin-off stuff too. You have Persona 5 Tactica, and then Persona 5.
yeah, I'll help you out.
What's that other one?
Strikers?
Strikers. That was the other one I was thinking of. Yeah, Persona 5
Yeah.
Strikers. And
Yeah,
then
Persona 5 Strikers.
you have Persona Q2, which has Persona 5 characters in it.
It does.
Um,
Um, you also we kind of skipped that the Persona series also has its own fighting games made by
oh,
Arc
yeah.
System Works. The
Arena.
creators of Guilty Gear, they made a Persona 4 arena, and then they included Persona 3 characters in its Ultimax version. Oh, you gotta include the Vita dancing games.
Yeah, there's the
Dancing all night.
dancing. There's dancing all night, and then there's three dancing games based off of Shin Megami
Moonlight.
or
Yeah.
Persona. Yeah, all night, Moonlight, and what was the last one? Starlight something. I don't remember anymore. It's been a while. I've played all three of them. Yeah, Starlight. Thank you. Dancing all night, based on Persona 3 or Persona 4, is the only one that is different than the other two because that one actually has a story and is canon to Persona 4. Like it actually is a sequel to Persona
Uh,
4.
I mean, the Cube games are canon-ish. They happen, and then they don't remember that they happened,
Right.
but they're canon.
Well, Persona 4's Dancing All Night is a event that takes place like a year after Persona 4. And it's not written off as like they forget about it like they do in the other games. So uh which they also the main characters from 3 and 5 in the dancing games have this like thing where they're like, "Oh, you're brought here to dance but into the Velvet Room, but you guys will all forget that this happened. Don't worry."
Yep.
Like, but they don't do that in Dancing All Night with Persona 4. But they do have something like that in Persona 4 Arena though, where they don't remember who they are or something like that, right?
Something. There's a red-headed, not female, but a guy this time named Akira that apparently has something to do with why there's a fighting tournament. And they're technically fighting shadow versions of themselves in arena. So like if it's Yosuke versus Yosuke, one of them's the shadow self. So he's not beating himself up.
Yeah. So great. Yeah, but isn't too much to say about those spin-offs, really.
I think we need to talk about SMT 5.
I think so too. We could mention Soul Hackers 2, which is playing right now, but I believe it came
Yeah.
out after SMT 5. Um, it's fine. It's a game.
Bland.
It's okay. Yeah, it's very boring. The dungeons are boring. The combat is boring. It's not a great game, unfortunately. Yeah,
The characters are kind of boring.
they
Um,
look cool, but they are boring.
Yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed when I bought this game, and I was like, all right, more soul hackers, this would be great. And it's like, no.
No, yeah. I don't really care for any of them. They all have like these weird, tragic backstories that are all kind of their own faults, and you don't really feel bad for them.
Yep.
I just don't. But the whole game starts out with them all getting killed, so
Yep.
there's a positive side to that.
And then resurrected by AI.
Yep. So they're essentially like
Yep.
not alive anymore.
Nope.
Uh, they're basically bodies that are being supported by a computer.
Yes, they're serving the purpose of a good AI
Yeah,
that's
they're
trying to stop, I would say, a bad AI,
yeah,
and she uses, the dead bodies of devil summoners to help her.
yeah. Their souls were hacked. That's what it was. So
Yep, yep, their souls were hacked.
yeah, she's an AI with a body, like a digitized, created body by another AI. Yeah. So and
Yeah,
there's two of them, sisters, essentially.
yeah.
So
Forget her name,
uh,
but her sister's name is Figaro.
yeah, it's Fig and what's her name? Why can't I think of Ringo? No, is it Ringo?
Ringo. Oh,
Yeah,
Ringo and yeah,
yeah,
Ringo and
Ringo.
Figaro.
Yeah,
Figaro. Yeah.
but yeah, they're yeah, it's fine. It's a game. It's a game. If you want to waste some time on it, you can. I wouldn't say
It's
it's
also a
great.
very, very bad sales tactic from Atlas. They locked a fourth character behind DLC. So there's a fourth character. Probably not going to
Oh
show her. It's this
yeah, the
young
little
girl,
girl. Yeah,
the little girl with the grenade launcher and
yep,
the hoodie.
yep. I forgot about that.
She's DLC, and it's like, oh, come on, Atlas. You can't do that.
There is some intrigue though with the dude with the mask and that character you just saw there. I do like that part of the story. Him, the Iron
Oh,
Mask, and his little persona character creature there or whatever that fights for him. Like
yeah, he's that's the only character I was kind of interested in was My Lady and him because apparently that's like her ex-boyfriend, abusive ex-boyfriend in the mask. So I was like, I wonder how that went. Is it like a Joker and like Harley situation? Like is she Harley who like left a bad relationship?
that is kind of what it feels like when you play through the
That's
whole
what,
thing.
yeah.
So, but yeah. So there isn't too much to say about that. But let's talk about SMT5 then and wrap up this discussion.
SMT5 has a very intriguing story to me, and it has very solid gameplay, but they really crapped it on the dungeon design.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Had to get the steel box.
there is a couple dungeons, quote unquote, in it that are really long and convoluted that I think are kind of fun, but it doesn't really feel like I'm in a dungeon, and it doesn't really feel like I'm playing a dungeon, except for maybe one time when you go into a mansion, which is whatever. Um, SMT5 doesn't use any of the same anything from 1 through 4. Like, it's its own thing. It tries to play like its own thing. It almost kind of seems like they tried to kind of emulate a little bit of the gameplay style or feel of Persona 5. Um, but you you just
I
don't
would
have
say,
like that part. You just don't have that thing that I really like about SMT4 where demons are essentially driving the story force. Like things are happening in the world and and you got to go handle demons because in this game you are not human. You are the Nahabino. Essentially
yes,
a
you are.
demon or godlike being on your own.
So, this game is like the opposite of SMT3. So, SMT3, you are part demon, part human. You're given a parasite that makes you demonic. In SMT5, you are part angel. You have an uh, some type of artificially created angel combines with you to create the Nahabiho, um, which makes you part god, part human. The story that's interesting, though, is this still follows the judo Christianity type story that the main line does. And so we do have, Satan, Lucifer, God, those are the top deities. is that we have a story that what if God just what if he was gone? Like the balance has shifted now. Either God's been killed or he disappeared or what. But the story starts with Lucifer coming down from heaven and it's like, hey, I was just up there. God's not home. So I guess we win. Whoever sits on his throne wins, right?
Yeah.
So it's a race to sit on the throne of God. And whoever does that will be, I guess, the new God of the world and they win. And you are working towards getting to God's throne and deciding who goes on that throne. And so that's an interesting premise for a story, and it's interesting from looking at the how we also incorporate other deities from other mythology or other religions are competing for God's throne. So like Odin wants God's throne. Uh, Not familiar much with the Egyptian deities. I believe Anubis wants God's throne, or maybe it's Set, maybe it's Seth. Um, but
I mean, pretty much every demon wants it, but there's certain demons
yeah,
that just look at it and go, "Well, I can't do that." you know, they want it, but they can't have it. You know what I mean?
but it's I feel like it's the first SMT game to sort of allow outside deities and influences to sort of affect the story. But for some reason, they wanted to show off that they could make a semi-open world area, but they didn't really populate it that well, and they didn't make it feel like that you're in a battlefield between demons and angels. The story's interesting, but the dungeon design could have been a lot better.
I mean, oh yeah, I guess there is the upper thing right there, but that's just like a temporary thing. That's not like how you actually travel in it. Not like I
It's
was
only in that one
It's
area,
only in that one area. Yeah.
that
This is
one
how you
intro area.
travel
That's
for the
it.
most part in the game.
Yep.
Now, I do like this. I do like that kind of travel. I think it's really fun how you run around. I really like the combat. The combat feels good. I like this character that they're showing you on screen right now. I like
Oh,
him because he feels like the only real fleshed out character in the whole series. Now, I have not played Vengeance at all, so I don't know what the alternate story stuff is in Vengeance that takes place. Um, but the that guy who basically gets like falls in love with like the god or law version of things. He's like the we're definitely not talking about that game.
Encore. I liked Encore. It was funny.
but he kind of becomes like a really interesting uh I wouldn't say antagonist, but like kind of like another character that's racing to the top. Like his story is really cool. But otherwise,
He
like the other characters, like the girl character that is along the female lead is just not interesting to me at all.
that's why you gotta play Vengeance. So the female lead is supposed to be the reincarnation of the goddess, as you
uh,
have in SMT games. But in Vengeance, you have the option of playing an alternative story where you meet one of the daughters of Lilith, and that story has you with which essentially she's Lilith, but she has sisters that you deal with, and that's kind of an interesting story because we deal with just because you're born, the spawn of Satan, doesn't make you Satan, kind of deal.
got it. Yeah. Um, well, I guess that's kind of it. Then at this point, I don't really have. I can't really think of any other games I want to really talk about tonight. Um, I feel we've touched pretty much everything important. Um, you know, we didn't talk about the Bible games on the Game Boy Color because they're boring and unimportant. Um, there's a handful of other side things, side games, other stuff like that. You know, there's just all sorts of stuff out there that revolve around the Mega 10 universe. And if you have to take anything from this, like, I would say if you want to like Shin Megami Tensei, start with 4. I think is a great way to go off of it. at this point. If you can start with 4, start with 4. If you can start with 3, start with 3. 3 is a really good one too. Um, 5 is fine, I think, if you've played Persona 5. But stick with the SMT series from 3 up. Stick with Persona series from 3 up, and you kind of have like the best 6 games available that you could easily get into, and then find offshoots from that you might like. Like I really like the Devil Survivor games for the DS. My first major SMT offshoot game series was Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Like I played through both those games back to back. You know, um, I wouldn't recommend them to anybody unless you've been into the SMT games already, because the characters are what really drive those games for me. Um, and going back further than SMT3 in the SMT games is really tough and hard to do. And then going back further than Persona 3 is really tough and hard to do. Like it's hard to find those games, it's hard to get them, but like at this point Persona 3, SMT3, from then up, like you have like really solid, well developed game franchises that are doing really well and have continued to do well. They're like you said, you really like Strange Journey. You really liked. Sorry, what was the second one that you were?
I like Strange Journey and SMT4.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, to like, and I wouldn't recommend Strange Journey to somebody who's new.
No,
I couldn't
that's
I
not your
couldn't do
first
that.
game.
Yeah, I couldn't
No,
recommend anything earlier than Shin Megami Tensei 4, or in my
and
opinion. You know.
well, SMT4, you could get like in 2 hours you get stuck if you don't know how to handle the Minotaur. The Minotaur is the skill test. If you can't beat the Minotaur, you're gonna hate that game.
Yeah, and they use the Minotaur as a reference. That Minotaur is referenced from the first SMT game, Shin Megami Tensei 1, or not Tensei 1, Digital Devil Saga has the Minotaur in Daedalus as the boss, and he's the wall, is when you hit him. And he's the boss in SMT4 as the first real like challenge. Like so it's kind of cool. Like they do lots of callbacks, all sorts of things. You could go back to all these other games and play them and go, "Oh, this and this and this are related and these things like these make sense. This is cool why these talk to each other." You know, um it's really cool how and they reference their own series all the time constantly. So it's I would say if yeah, that's kind of I guess that's all I have to say. I started rambling there. So
I mean, yeah, there's definitely references. So there are inside jokes made against other religions, and it's just in. I'm sure for them they aren't trying to be insensitive, but there is a Buddhist demon that's the demon of they are the demon of what's a good way to put it? They're the demon that seduces you. And Atlas decided that this demon, Mara, the demon that seduces you,
I was gonna
should
say,
just
are
be
you
a
talking
giant
about Mara?
green. Yes. They designed that demon as a giant green dick in a chariot.
You can say phallus. It's okay.
Okay. Yes. And that is supposed to represent the deity in Buddhist that apparently tried to tempt Buddha. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big problem in Shin Megami Tensei 2. He's like a big boss in that game. I don't know if that's where he first came from, but even in Shin Megami Tensei 2, you have like Abaddon, who's a concept of like to be swallowed. He's just a stomach. Like become
Yeah.
like a character, like just become an offshoot demon that you can just find or summon in other games. It's like, but he was a huge deal in Shin Megami Tensei 2, but in the rest of them, he's not. He's just another demon that you can find. So which is
I mean,
which is something I think is really cool about Shin Megami Tensei is they just keep doing callbacks or bringing back stuff from other ones too. You know.
their interpretation of because they probably do their research, their interpretation of like angel and hierarchy and how they interpret the passages that talk about the different ranks of angels as actual different angels is interesting. I like the original angel design is wrapping. They almost make them look like they're like BDS or something, but they have the angels always have their eyes covered or maybe their hands clasped in the original designs to show that they're restraining themselves from seeing evil or doing evil because they're angels. And then later designs of angels in the more modern games, they have angels as they increase in rank, remove parts of their body and replace them with mechanical parts, as if they're trying to remove the temptations of the flesh by just turning into robots, basically. And it's an interesting take on the idea of 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 angels in design instead of being these bright angelic beings that are beautiful and stuff. Let's make them into these mechanical, unable to have free will type things.
Right.
I think that's a very interesting way of interpreting that.
And they don't use the angels like the biblically described angels, like the eyes and the wheels rotation thing that you see in
They
Bayonetta.
do.
Oh, they do that still too.
There, so in Shin Megami Tensei 4, the seeing the
Oh
angel's
yeah,
true
yeah.
form, their true forms are that.
That's right. Yeah.
They are that.
That's
Yeah.
not until the end of the game though for SMT4 where you have to deal with that. But but
Yeah.
but you have Raphael and Gabriel and Michael and Metatron in this, and those are all, those characters are characters. Like the angels in this always have some sort of like hierarchy stuff, in it, that, and they always kind of loom over everything. And it's not until you see your first angel power that you get like, and power can really kick your butt if you're
Oh yeah.
not careful.
It's weird to see an angel go from like, oh, that little angel that Haman that, is pretty weak, and then like Power's like, oh crap, I got like I can't he resists physical? What?
Yeah, yeah. That, like, he's a tough angel to run into, especially since he's an early angel too that you fight.
And then
Um,
you go to Throne and he's like just tossing fire all everywhere. Yeah, they're all
yeah,
different as they go up in rank.
there's power right there. uh,
Ah, there's Power.
but you go on to like fight all sorts of mythology, and that's what's really neat about SMT is it takes all that mythology into account. The things that the mythology actually like represented in real life, and like uses those things as plot hooks or plot points in the games. And that's something that I think SMT is just
It's
really cool at. And if you want to play from the first Digital Devil game all the way up to SMT5, just to kind of be like, to have a grasp of like who these demons are and who these angels are and stuff, and how they were utilized in earlier games. I think it would be beneficial to do that, so you can kind of be like, oh, and there's Gabriel. I just found Gabriel. Did you know he was the president of the United States? you know, in one of the games, just like how Thor was in charge of
yeah,
nuclear launch
Thor.
codes. You know,
That's right. Thor was pretending to be a black guy named Thor Man, and he was head of the United States Armed Forces.
right, right. You touched on that earlier, and that's too
Yeah.
funny. So it's cool to go back and look at some of that stuff. So, um, but yeah, so I think that's all I have to say myself about the SMT universe. I don't think we're going to need a part two. We definitely covered
No,
everything. I figured we were going to
I mean,
split up Persona from this, but that's okay.
I didn't know how much we were going to discuss, but I kind of think of it like with those like Percy Jackson books, where like you read about like, oh, you discover that this mythology still exists and those people are real and they're in the real world.
Yeah.
SMT is kind of like that, like the stuff that I learned of angelology and mythology and stuff that stuff actually exists and it's exists around us and it's like a secret world that you discover, and that it's been influencing our world. And I just think those ideas are pretty fascinating, and it's a fascinating world to be part of.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, if anybody has any questions before we close things up tonight, yeah, Belphegor, the toilet demon, is crazy. He's a demon of sloth, essentially. Uh, you know,
I do not have the eye. Yeah. Yep.
he sits on a toilet because it's easier to just stay there and poop. We did not cover Jack Bros, but I did play it on our on the video feed for a little while. Jack Bros has no bearing on anything. It's just a game. I'm pretty sure.
Hee-ho.
Yeah, it's just a mascot title. That's pretty much all it is. There isn't really anything to discuss, unfortunately. Um, but I did play it just for you. I put it up on screen. It's been recorded. I knew you'd like to see it.
Okay. What do you want to see a six of first?
A six of SMT. Personally, I would like to
Okay.
see
Yep.
SMT
SMT.
six.
I'd rather see an SMT 6 before I see a Persona 6.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Persona is kind of overtaking SMT a little too much myself. Um, and because I think SMT needs to continue to push the way forward for what the franchise is really about, and then Persona should be building off of that, in my opinion. Um, so, yeah,
Well, I gotta go to bed.
yeah. Seasons is typing here really quick. Let's go. What do you think Persona
What do you think
6?
Persona 6 should be? Ah, that's a tough one. We already
Yeah,
did Country Boy, we did Convicts, and we did Death.
yeah.
Um,
Uh, I don't even. I mean, I hope it's still the school scenario stuff. I do prefer that. I do like the school life stuff.
well, it's
Um,
gotta be in Japan.
it's probably going to be set in Tokyo again.
How about on a boat?
Ooh,
Persona 6 on a boat.
yeah. Persona 5 did that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a big boat segment in Persona 5.
I know that Persona 6 is gonna be green color. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
I heard it was going to be green too.
I gotta think about that one. Because like I remember the promotion for Persona 5 and it had the this chair with the handcuffs on it and it says, "Do you um seek freedom?" So I wonder what the tagline would be for the color green. Purple was actually if you want to know the colors, Persona 1 is purple, Persona 2 is red, um Persona 3 is blue,
Yeah.
Persona 4 is yellow, and then Persona 5 was red again. So they do reuse colors.
Yeah, there isn't really a precedent to pick one over another. I mean, it'd be cool, a little stylistic if they did like green and white stuff. I don't necessarily think that Persona is going to be any like because it's always about facing yourself, like facing your true self. Like, what's a scenario in which you'd have to face your true self that could be different?
Well, Persona 5 changed that too. Besides just facing it's Persona 5 was about being yourself is being a rebel. And everything was themed around rebellion against the set norm, the set authority that is causing all the hardship for the current generation. And so every persona was themed around a known rebel of that time, such as, there's a Robin Hood, there's uh, I don't know enough about Carmelita about how she's a rebel, but all the personas were themed around that about someone in history that rebelled against something, or like you got the pirate.
Ahmed says, "What about a Persona with adults in the salaryman life?" That actually, I mean, that would actually would be kind of neat. Honestly, to get away if you got away from the school stuff, to do like a working class thing, you know, it's kind of a
But
interesting
I
concept.
thought it'd be fun if someone remade Persona 2, the duology, and we could just remake it in the style of Stephen King It. So like you're the kids in part one in Innocent Sin, and then in part two you get a phone call like the Joker's back. It's back. And then you get part two. I know that's a hard one to that anyone would understand, but
Right.
I would like that.
Well, if anything happens, maybe we'll talk about it on a future show. So, for now, we are going to say goodnight. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Sean, for joining me tonight as we discussed the entirety of the Shin Megami Tensei universe for the most part, at least the important stuff. And this has been fun, and we'll probably have to do another video like this sometime soon about maybe another series we could talk about, kind of as kind of a group, some sort. So anybody else has any ideas, anything they're interested in discussing or sharing, please let me know. You can always do a mid-month podcast about pretty much any topic. We did one about anime before too, so let's just pick stuff and have some fun. So just let me know. And Sean, once again, thanks for joining us. If you got anything else you want to do mid-month show wise, let me know. We can definitely put it on. So a Pikmin expert, I don't know who that would be. Definitely nobody. With that, thanks everybody for coming
Right.
once again. Have a good night. Peace.
Well, in the lines of Persona, be true to yourself.
Burn my dress.